Hey everybody, it's Josh. Wanted to do a video today. Didn't know if I was going to, but one of my cousins died today suddenly. Unfortunately, they're from a part of my family that I don't really talk to much anymore. There was a big argument over basically nothing, and they decided that they didn't want to speak to certain people in my family, so I took the side of the people they didn't want to speak to. But the cousin who died was also kind of a neutral party, and she would always reach out to us and was such a nice woman. She leaves behind 2 children in their early 30s and an autistic daughter who cannot take care of herself. So it's going to be real hard to cope with that. You know, all the ones that are left behind. And that's how it usually goes. Death is hardest, obviously, on those who are left behind. For Christians, it is just the next chapter starting. But though I'm not scared of death, I worry about leaving my children and my wife behind before I can guide them to Christ, especially. And a lot of people are stubborn. Obviously, with children, I believe children, you teach about Christ, you teach about the Bible, you teach about how Christ is your best friend, there with you always. When you have no one, He is there to lean on. But they don't understand like an adult does. I keep saying over and over in these videos, and I know you guys think it's probably a broken record by now, but you have to be broken. You have to be tempered. Tempered steel, just exposing it to heat for a prolonged period of time. So the steel is cured to the hardest it can be. They do these to swords when they're making them. The best swords. They temper glass to make it harder. You will be tempered. You will go through living hell. And you will wonder why you've been cursed. Why everything just seems to fall apart all the time. You don't get a rest. It's one punch after another after another. No time to adjust for self-defense. No time to recover. It is just one body blow after another. Or one punch to the face after another. I did a video a long time ago. It was one of the first videos of mine that really kind of took off, about how suffering is a gift, not a curse. And of course, a lot of people got angry with me, saying, the child with cancer, that pulling out just the worst case scenarios, which the worst case scenarios happen a lot of times. We or someone we know have to deal with those a lot of times. And that's the thing. With the grace and the glory of Christ, those things are still a gift. Of course, they do not feel like a gift when you're getting it. You buy a 2-year-old a car instead of their favorite toy. It's not going to feel like much of a great gift when they're getting it. Like, what the hell am I going to do with a car? I'm 2 years old, right? There, we'll let you go sit in it. But we have to be tempered. In Romans, I think it was 17, the Apostle Paul talks about what he wants to do, he does not do. And what he hates to do, he does. Do you think when Paul was writing from a prison, knowing it's probably going to be the last days of his life, writing to Timothy, he was not pleading for some mercy from God. He was not pleading to ask God to take him from his suffering. He was pleading for Timothy, another young Christian he was teaching. He was pleading for him to keep the word of Christ going. Keep teaching the gospel. Do not stop. It is the only thing that matters. We are just, when you find Christ, you don't despair about death anymore. You're not scared of death anymore. Death is laughable to me. Death is nothing except for the ones we have to leave behind. The ones who have to go on without that eternal hope, without that understanding that Christ defeated death. It's always hard to console people when so many are non-believers and atheists. And I ask God how to do this. God keeps sending me to these people. God keeps sending me to go and try to guide these people to his grace. And I tell him, I'm just a simple man. I don't know how to convince someone who is so beaten down by life, who thinks and feels that life is just one bad thing after another, and that they don't know that grace. They don't know that beauty. They don't have the purpose and the meaning that Christ gave me. And I understand that's what my job is. I'm the man with the lantern, walking through hell, waiting to show anyone who is willing to open their eyes and see the path to salvation. But the path to salvation, getting there from where you are, because you've been walking the wide path. You've been going down that wide path where it is just nonstop false desires and hopes. Things that can bring you short-term bliss. Any type of escape that you might follow. Any kind of purpose and meaning in life except for God. Which you see just a little bit farther down the wider path. Those things disintegrate. They wash away like a castle in the sand. They fall into the sea eventually. I don't it's hard for me to get this across, because I wake up some days and I hear this bad news like I did today, and I want so badly to show people that Christ is the salvation you've been looking for. Christ is the only hope you will find that is going to last through every single situation. You can find hope you can find someone you think is your soulmate. Eventually, they will leave you, they will betray you, or they will just die. And you'll be left there to pick up the pieces with the only thing of hope that you had left. The only little glimmer of hope is gone. Your children, same thing can happen. You don't want to think about your children betraying you or going astray, but guess what? It happens quite a bit. You can't let that affect you. You can't let that tear your world apart. Your job is to be a reflection of Christ. Have the Holy Spirit work through you so you can be there to pick up the pieces for your children, for your spouse, for your partner, for your parents, for anyone. When they finally see that this world is going to break them, when they finally are just overcome by suffering. All suffering is a gift, but it's a gift that you have to have patience for. It's a gift that might take decades to come to fruition. And you might suffer immensely for that, whatever period of time it is you're waiting. I'll take the death of my pap, my grandfather. He was the greatest man, aside from my father, who he raised my father, obviously. The greatest man I ever knew. Held our family so closely together, so perfectly. It was miraculous, really, because we were all such strange and unique personalities, and really we were all such assholes at times, to each other, to ourselves, to anyone. But he had a love, him and my Grammy, they had a love that transcended. And why was this? Because they found the love of Christ. Because they were from a generation that didn't have phones and computer games and 50,000 TV channels. They had each other. They had community, and most of all, they had the love of God, the love of Christ. And it was obviously a harder time when you look at it a certain way, but in an overall sense, it was an easier time. Because the farther we get away from really just being simple farmers out plowing our fields, the farther we get away from nature, the farther we get away from God. I truly believe this. Now, God works through everything, but the purest form of God is found in nature. The animals who rely on him, who don't have worries that they're going to eat every day, they know God will provide for them. Who don't worry about the comforts of life because they know that life is simple when you walk in faith. And they don't know they're walking in faith, obviously. We think. Of course, we don't know that. But they're walking in faith because that is what it's all about. We were given a higher consciousness than animals so we could understand things and ponder God himself. God has a different kind of relationship with animals. With animals, it's like with us with pets. God provides for them. Sometimes chaos just destroys them. And yes, they mourn just like we do at times. But before Adam and Eve decided to eat from that forbidden tree of good and evil, before the chaos was let in, all was good. And I understand that so many don't believe that it's just some 4,000-year-old text that nobody knows what really happened. Nobody knows. That's such a dumb explanation for good and evil in the world. Every person has a choice to let in good and evil in their life. And most of us open the floodgates to evil, not even knowing, not even understanding, because our culture has gone so far away from God that we just decay. That we are so corrupted. And now we have a whole religion of atheists who, it's obviously your choice what to believe and what not to believe. But they deny the perfect hope, the ultimate hope. They deny that there could be a supernatural God in the first place. Yet they believe in miracles because they have to have at least one big miracle for their faith to be affirmed. Something like the Big Bang. And yet the start of the Big Bang is obviously a creator, an intelligent creator. I have people arguing with me all the time about how, abiogenesis, it shows how life is formed in a lab. Life is formed easily with just chemistry. But so many studies have shown, no, that's not true. That life would absolutely not form in any kind of setting except for a perfect laboratory setting that is far, far above our understanding. Having the chaos of the elements out there, there is no way a DNA cell or a DNA strand could form. It's just impossible. But even so, no matter what they try to do to justify their non-belief, it doesn't change the fact that we have to try to show as many of them as we can. Not saying, gotcha, bro. Not through some crazy debate where, debates are obviously very, very... I watch debates all the time. on all kinds of issues about God and Christ. They are very informative. But that's not how we save people. We save people by showing them the grace, by showing them the love, by showing them the purpose that God showed us. I was nothing. I was selfish. I was a lost little child crying in the corner because I was having so much in Wonderland, just running around exploring, having a great time. And you know what? It was kind of like that again. I kind of explained it in the same way when I was saved. The Holy Spirit is often like a playful little child showing you around to all of the new gifts, the miracles that are in your life at your disposal now that you serve God. And that meaning, that purpose is more than I can even explain. I am so blessed for this suffering in my life. I am so blessed even for the losses in my life. And the reason for this is because Christ showed me. He showed me the meaning of all that suffering. He showed me that death is not the end. He showed me how we will all meet each other again in the perfect form, with no more of the corruption that mankind lets in to their lives. No more of the decay. You know, the way that Adam and Eve suffered when they ate that fruit, and they finally felt for the first time, they felt shame, and they felt lust, and they felt disgust. They felt all of the good and the bad feelings. Not saying that having your lust fulfilled and a one-night hookup or whatever is not pleasurable. Not saying that taking an opiate or taking some cocaine or whatever drug that you prefer is not pleasurable. Of course they are. If they weren't pleasurable, how would you get hooked on them? But they are a deal with the devil. And the devil always makes deals that have the devil in the details. You look at the detail of those deals, and you will see that you're signing on that dotted line saying, this bottle of whiskey is going to take away my pain. And you keep on signing, and you keep on signing. And right there in the small print that you don't ever read, because I don't ever read it, is the fact that, yeah, you will still get your escape from these drugs and these booze and gambling and sex and all the different ways to escape. You will still get it. The thing is, it will take more and more. And they don't talk about your life when you're not taking that drug or that alcohol or fulfilling whatever desire that you have. They don't talk about how your life will fall apart. And that's the devil in the details. All right, I'm going to get off of here. I want to just express first that suffering is a gift. There is nothing I ever thought that could make me always do what I don't want to do, what I hate to do, and what I want to do not to do. There is no force in nature that could make me have done that, except for Christ. And I'm telling you, I would suffer 1,000,000 lifetimes if that's what it takes to bring more people to Christ. I would do what it takes, but I am so ill-equipped, it seems at times. But I feel this, and that's another lie the devil tells me. Because I barely have time during the day to talk to people. I'm constantly, I go to bed at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I sometimes don't wake up until 10 or 11, or even later if it's been a really rough week. I am in pain all the time. I sweat all the time because of the pain. All these things against me, I always feel like that is just hampering my mission to guide people. Excuse the glare on my face. It's trying to get over to the shade again. But that isn't there to hamper me. These obstacles in life, as bad as they seem, are there to teach me a lesson or to guide me in the right direction. So maybe I'm not supposed to be a preacher and bring in thousands of people into the faith. Maybe I'm supposed to go, as I've been trying to do, one by one, focusing on one at a time. It's why I try to spend so much time commenting on or replying to your comments, because I care about all of you. I care about each and every one of you, and when I see one of you is in distress, it makes me heartbroken, but it also gives me hope. Because the more you are suffering, I talked to one brother on that. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to bring that up. Talked to one brother who just, his wife and took his kids, and his kid's now a drug addict and even worse. And it's just been one knock after another. And as heartbroken as I am for him, I'm also hopeful. Because those who suffer the most have the most profound purpose. All right, everybody. I'm going to get off of here. I love you all so much. God bless.